Hi, I'm Cristian, and these are my friends, Alex and Gabe. We go to Palmer High School in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we like to make videos, specifically investigative stories, things that make people think and give us an excuse to go on fun little adventures. One day, I got an email from CSMA about a Colorado video contest with an interesting prompt, something related to the date of February 9th. It was weird, but it intrigued us. I started doing some research about the history of the day to brainstorm. Let's see. Pope Gregory XV was elected, John Quincy Adams became the 6th U.S. president, first flight of the Boeing 747, Galileo flies by Venus. Wait a second, that last one, the 747. Huh. Until then, planes hadn't really intrigued me, but it was interesting to note that the first flight of an airplane was considered a significant historical event. So I did some more research, deeper research, specifically about the Boeing 747. And to my surprise, I found that the very last U.S. commercial 747 was landed on January 3rd, 2018. Just a week before I had started my research. The location of touchdown? Marana, Arizona, a barren strip of desert 30 minutes north of Tucson that hosts Pinal Airpark, referred to by many plane enthusiasts as an airplane boneyard. A 12.5-hour drive from Colorado Springs, and an invitation to explore something we knew nothing about. The stars had aligned. At this point, Gabe and Alex were just eager to start. We were no longer thinking about the statewide video contest that prompted us to make a simple 2-minute video about current events on February 9th. No. We were going to take a road trip. In other words, we had an excuse to go on an amazing adventure. So early the morning of February 8th, all my friends, my grandpa and I grabbed our bags and headed for Arizona. Okay, so we'll start off really basic. What is a boneyard?
Okay, so I gotta tell you, I don't like the word boneyard as it relates to what we do here, but people use that term to denote the storage of decrepit airplanes. Kind of means they're forgotten and they're here to die.
So why do you not like that term in?
Because I think of a cemetery, you know, and this place it's alive.
That day, we discovered the unexplainably striking nature of Pinal. But before we get to the fun part, we have to go back to that crisp February morning when we woke up and made our way from South Tucson to Marana, Arizona. Okay, it's the morning of February 9th, and we drove 12.5 hours yesterday to get to Marana, Arizona, and then we woke up about an hour ago, and we're headed to Pinal Airpark finally. Hello, I'm Cristian. I was emailing you.
This right here is a copy of the original site plan for the airport.
Okay. So what different kinds of planes do you guys have here?
Well, right now we've got a lot of 747s, a lot of 757s, Airbus 340s out there, and those are 4-engine guys. And those are here because they're too much to operate versus the 2-engine guys. We have 3 primary businesses here. There's Marana Aerospace Solutions, Jet Yard, and Logistic Air.
Nice to meet you, by the way. I'm Cristian.
Hi, Brandi.
This is Brandi Lange. She's the operations manager for Logistic Air and our main guide to the planes we were about to explore. Our question was this: why do 747s have such historical significance? And why are they brought to Pinal Airpark to be preserved, repurposed, or destroyed? We mentioned Delta Captain Stephen Hamlin, who piloted the final commercial 747 aircraft, the last Queen of the Skies, to its terminal destination in Pinal.
They'll probably use as many parts off it as they can, and the rest of it will probably be scrapped. So very sad to fly a wonderful airplane in here and know that it's going to be disassembled.
I think what that captain was saying is he's attached to the aircraft he used to fly, and it's sad that that part of history is kind of at an end.
Do you think there's a value in preserving them?
Oh, for history's sake, yeah, but we don't need to preserve all 2,000 of them. So now probably we could head out to Brandi's planes.
Okay, very cool. Let's do that. Do you mind if I hop in front with you?
Sure.
So what happens to these? So these were originally to feed into your fleet. So what happens to them now?
We still sell parts off of them. We also, the interior of this aircraft, the TWA wing, it was sold to a movie TV production company.
Sure.
We took those off. We sold it to Fox Studios for their show LA to Vegas.
So what does that mean? They buy the seats themselves? And
Fox Studios bought the seats, they recovered them, and if you watch the show, they built an airplane set, and the seats are
legitimate.
they're airplane, yeah.
How close are we allowed to get to the planes?
Yeah, we can go on them if you want.
We can go on them. We've just come out with Jim Petty and Brandi Lange, and we're on Brandi Lange's property right now. And these 6 planes here are her planes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we just are about to go into this one right now. And I think she said it's a cargo plane, so let's take a look. Before we climbed into that larger-than-life structure, we hadn't realized just how giant and sophisticated it was. Every level, from the cockpit to storage to maintenance, was intricately designed. Every scratch in the wall and every creak in the floor told a different story. When we climb onto 747 jets for hour-long voyages, we're usually deprived from these complexities and imperfections, and don't come to realize the processes that go into making each flight painstakingly smooth. What was the appeal of the Boeing 747 when it was created, and what made it such an influential plane throughout aviation history?
It's a huge aircraft, especially back when it was introduced. It also has very unique aesthetic characteristics, like the flight deck, the hump on the top. Economically, airlines could carry a ton of people and freight on them. As far as a safe aircraft, there's been incidents with it, but most of those incidents weren't due to design flaws or anything. So it's a very safe aircraft.
So a lot of commercial airlines have decided to reduce the sizes of their Boeing 747 fleets, and now there are no American commercial airlines that have anymore. So what would be some of the reasons that they would begin to look at other aircraft instead of the Boeing 747?
They can fly just as many people for less cost, so they're going to increase their bottom line. It might be a good decision point for them to just say, okay, the 747's done. We're going to go to this new aircraft called the 787.
So what are the returns that you can get, that a commercial airline could get off of a Boeing 747?
A lot of airlines like TWA and Pan Am, they're very historically significant to a lot of people. It's kind of like artwork where it increases in value over time. So if there's any placards or anything that say TWA or Pan Am, a lot of times there's a market for those.
But on our next leg of the tour, we found that there's another option aside from saving and scrapping 747s.
This is the Global Supertanker, and it's one of the ways that they turned a Boeing 747 and they converted it into a plane that now fights forest fires.
The remodeled jet was a project based out of our hometown of Colorado Springs, and inside we got to meet some of the crew and discovered the purpose of repurposing. And that makes sense economically.
Sure. The 747 is a really good aircraft. Right? In my opinion, one of the best aircraft Boeing ever built.
This is Scott Olsen, Vice President and Maintenance Officer on board the Global Supertanker. He gave us the tour of the jet and his opinions on the uses of 747s after their discontinuation. Kind of the theme behind our video is kind of looking at some people who think that there's a history behind 747s and trying to preserve them, and then you also look at the fact that you can make money from scrapping them. So looking at a boneyard, part of it is just like there are planes that just sit here and do nothing. So is there a value in having planes just kind of sit there?
Oh, sure. I mean, like Logistic Air, they part out aircraft, sell the parts for other operators, etc. So there's a lot of other uses.
Do you think that there is a need or a want for looking at the history or preserving that of
I think
747s, especially because
they're, like I said, they're one of the best aircraft in the sky. They're amazing to fly on. I can't say that. Sure.
So far we knew that the historical preservation or repurposing of 747s had outspoken support from many people we met at Pinal. But on our final section of Jim Petty's tour, we were able to hear his opinion firsthand. He brought us to one more 747, a jet that was completely frozen in time. The TWA aircraft had landed in Pinal in 1996, and finding no new use from its airline, was brought to Petty and the Logistic Air team instead of being sent to a scrapping facility.
This is a 100 series 747. The 100 series was the first series made, and this one I think was built in January of 1976.
This is great.
There were dated SkyMall magazines lying idle on the seats, ashtrays on every armchair, and Kix cereal lined the wall creases around every corner.
And this one, a lot of people, this one's special for them because it's a TWA aircraft.
What significance does that have?
TWA is a very, historically significant airline in the aviation history of America.
Will it just kind of sit here until they use all the parts that they can?
Yeah, so if I own this plane, it's giving me revenue.
Sure.
And then there's going to be a point in time where there's nothing left on it to give me revenue, so I'll scrap it.
In a sense, it was a time machine. And it was the site in which we shot this interview.
If I own a 747 and I can make a couple $1 million off of parting it out, or I can make no money by parking it and letting people see it, a lot of people are probably going to choose the $2 million route. Personally, I feel that there should be some preservation of some 747s. You always want to have something, an original. There's been many planes in the past where now they just have replicas. And there's no original, there's just a replica. So it'd be great to see some preserved. When you see the last of something happen in aviation, and that's something you worked with and worked on for so many years, you just naturally are a little sad that that part of its life and your life has kind of come to an end. So I'm all for keeping aviation history rich with the legacy of the 747.
Looking back on this project, I think we came to Marana expecting to find a mundane airplane graveyard. We came in search of the final resting place of the Boeing 747. But it turns out this wasn't it. Because as Jim Petty likes to say, Pinal is more alive than ever. We'd like to thank everyone who helped in making this project a reality, and we hope that this is only the beginning of our adventures. We'll see you next time.
This is so crispy. That's real, Chris.
Satisfied.